Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down a large storm that's coming to the United States early this week, and this storm is going to cause a ton of problems, including the risk of significant severe weather across areas in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and even as far south as the Mississippi Valley. And this storm will also bring a pretty large cold snap to parts of the United States. The potential for a winter storm exists across the Rocky Mountains, northern plains, and perhaps the upper Midwest, and eventually we'll be watching for this heat wave to grow tomorrow with the potential for record-breaking high temperatures for much of the United States. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, and let's begin first with what's happening right now in the United States today, and we will begin with the west coast of the United States, and this is an area that has remained pretty active for the last several weeks, and we are still watching some moisture crashing into the southwest part of California. There's also a lot of moisture up in the Pacific Northwest, and essentially what we're going to have to watch for over the next 48 hours is a storm that is going to come out of Canada, and it's eventually going to go into the northern plains and the Midwest, and that will be responsible for the threat of severe weather as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and we'll be talking about more specific details on that later in this forecast. Notice across the Great Plains this afternoon, it's pretty dry, pretty warm. We are going to be challenging record-breaking high temperatures anywhere from the Midwest and the northern plains back into Texas once we go into tomorrow and even perhaps on Tuesday, and we'll be talking about more details on that later in this forecast. But I do want to mention high temperatures in the mid 90s are possible back in Texas as we go into tomorrow afternoon. East coast of the country, we are pretty quiet, pretty dry right now, and it should remain like that all the way up until about Wednesday of this week. All right, let's talk more about the weather pattern that's impacting the United States right now and talk about what's going to be happening with this large storm that's coming to the country. And we'll begin with tonight. Notice we actually have ridging in place across much of the Great Plains. This is all due to a high pressure system, and it's really obviously dominating much of the United States. Jet stream is pretty zonal right now, meaning that we don't have a whole lot of curvature in the jet stream. Really what that means is that the weather pattern's pretty quiet right now. Nothing too crazy for the time being. But once we go into Monday and Tuesday, that is when a large storm will start to cross across areas in the northern plains. This will eventually bring the risk of severe weather, and notice how strong the jet stream will be back down in the central and southern plains. This doesn't really mean a whole lot when it comes to the severe weather setup right now, because the severe weather setup will actually be back up in here primarily in the Ohio Valley and the Midwest. But one thing to keep in mind is if you are traveling by airplane, there will be quite a bit of turbulence if you're going north to south or south to north Tuesday night into Wednesday. So just keep that in mind, but again, not really a big impact right now in terms of what we're seeing at the ground. Once we go into Wednesday morning, we're going to have that jet stream ripping across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, and eventually by Thursday into Friday, that large storm begins to move out of the United States. But one thing to keep in mind as we go into the weekend is that things will calm down a little bit for Saturday and Sunday, but keep in mind we are getting extremely close to severe weather season, meaning large storms like this are very possible. We actually could see another significant severe weather event next week in the country. This will be around March 4th or 5th. Right now the exact details are very uncertain, but the computer models have been very consistent with this over the last few days. So some sort of large scale storm is very possible. And by the way, this is a negatively tilted trough that's being pictured by the GFS model. That essentially means that we'll basically have more spin in the atmosphere with this sort of event, which could lead to a few tornadoes. So we'll have to watch that closely, but by no means is there any reason to panic since we are still multiple days out and things could obviously change. All right, let's talk more about the severe weather potential for tossing trampolines on Tacos Tuesday. We do currently have a slight risk of severe weather. This goes from Michigan all the way back into southern Missouri, and this is a 2 out of 5 on the scale, meaning we're kind of in the low to medium sector of a severe weather risk. I would not rule out a small enhanced risk of severe weather, perhaps up in here across areas near the Chicago suburbs and into northern Indiana. The main concern right now is going to be damaging winds, and that is really the main concern across the entire board. So if you have any trampolines, make sure that you hatch them down so they don't fly away, protect loose line items, and also protect your vehicle because large hail will also be a concern. In addition to this, a few tornadoes are possible, and I'm not ruling out an isolated strong tornado or two, but I do think that risk is still on the low side of things. So no reason to panic, but make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts and a tornado action plan in place just in case there are any tornado warnings in your location. But again, this is by no means looking to be a widespread severe weather outbreak, but there will at least be some storms, probably a scattered storm amount that we'll be watching for some severe weather. All right, let's go through the future radar, give you an idea of when you'll be seeing thunderstorms across these areas and where this winter storm has a potential of happening. Beginning with early Tuesday morning, the low pressure system will be located over over areas in Minnesota. Initially, Tuesday morning, there will be a few showers, perhaps a few isolated thunderstorms across the Great Lakes back into Kentucky. I am not anticipating severe weather in the morning, and even if there was any, it would be very conditional overall, and obviously a pretty low risk. We'll be watching for snow Tuesday morning anywhere from the Rocky Mountains all the way back into Minnesota on the backside of this low pressure system. Many areas over in the Rocky Mountains will be watching for the potential for a winter storm. Once we go into late Tuesday, around about lunchtime or so, this is when we'll be watching that low pressure system moving into northern Wisconsin, and this will begin to set up the threat of severe weather during the afternoon. So to look at the severe weather threat, we're going to go much closer here across the Midwest, because this is the main area. Then we'll show you what we're looking at further south as well and east. This is right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That low pressure system back up in northern Wisconsin. This is going to be the area to watch for during the afternoon for severe storms to fire up. Any discrete supercells that fire off will have a chance of producing a tornado threat. By around 6 o'clock or so, storms ongoing anywhere from central Indiana and western Ohio back into northern central parts of Illinois. And by the evening hours, so around 9 o'clock or so, those storms are rumbling across areas in northern Indiana and even into southern Michigan. Very rare, by the way, for the end of February. And then once we go into early Wednesday, those storms continue to move to the east. The main concern overnight Tuesday into Wednesday will be damaging winds. I'm not expecting nearly as much of a tornado threat. And then we'll be watching for the potential of snow in areas like Chicago, Wisconsin, even as far south as St. Louis as we go into Wednesday morning. So we're going to go from severe weather to flipping the script entirely to the potential for some snow. The good news is there won't be a whole lot of snow with this. At least it's good news if you don't want snow. Overall, the snow amounts are going to be very minimal here. The only area that I expect any significant accumulation in the Midwest or even in parts of the Great Lakes would be in northern Michigan or in the Michigan Peninsula, perhaps even northern Wisconsin. A little bit of freezing rain is possible as well, so there could even be some ice accumulation in parts of central and northern Michigan. Then we clear out as we go into Thursday. Here we go back into the entire country, going again around 3 o'clock on Tuesday. Notice those storms fire up across areas in the Midwest. This is right around about 9 o'clock in the evening Tuesday. We'll be watching for storms as far south and west as areas like Arkansas. So keep that in mind, damaging winds still being the main concern. There will be some snow as far south as southern Kansas, perhaps even in northern Oklahoma. By the overnight hours into Wednesday morning, those storms are rumbling across areas in Kentucky and Tennessee, and they'll swiftly move off to the east as we go into Wednesday afternoon across areas in Virginia, Kentucky, and into the Northeast. Right now, there is not a risk of severe weather, but I at least expect a low-end risk for severe weather on both Wednesday and Thursday, anywhere from the Ohio Valley all the way back over to the East Coast. And by the time we go into Thursday, that large storm will move off coast and off to the east. Once we go into Friday into Saturday, things relatively quiet for most of the country. Only exception is the West Coast and into the Southeast, where there will be plenty of moisture down there for some showers and thunderstorms Friday and Saturday. By the time we go into Sunday and Monday, there's again another chance for a large storm. This could get pretty crazy if it ends up happening, because again, a negatively tilted trough like this do typically have a much greater chance of severe weather. We actually could see some pretty significant severe weather out of this. I mean, we're talking the potential for numerous to even widespread damaging winds if this ends up verifying. But again, we're still over 7 days out. Things will change between now and then. How much will they change is still a massive question at this point. So stay tuned. Again, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest. Here's what we're talking about with temperatures over the next few days. Temperatures are going to be on the rise tomorrow and Tuesday. Record-breaking high temperatures possible from Texas all the way back into the Midwest. Cold weather will return back into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley on Wednesday into Thursday, and into the Northeast on Friday. We'll be returning right back to warm weather by Saturday. So what will the actual temperatures be this week? Well, look at Texas as we go into tomorrow afternoon. Many areas will be soaring into the 90s. Even in the Midwest, we're talking about high temperatures in the 60s. Just uncalled for this time of the year. Once we go into Tuesday afternoon, temperatures still very warm across the United States. Chicago could get close to 70 degrees going into Tuesday. That's just crazy. On the backside of that cold front, though, very cold weather will return. So we're going to be talking about the temperatures dropping into the 20s and 30s as we go into Wednesday across the Midwest. Temperatures will cool down for most of the United States by Thursday as well. By Friday into Saturday, that warm air will return, and by early next week, temperatures will be just crazy warm again for this time of the year. And by the way, I appreciate all of your support. We officially have our YouTube play button. The full reaction video will be up on our YouTube channel on the members only tab, and as well as on our Twitter page. So if you're not a member on our channel, you can go to our Twitter page. It's at MaxVelocityWX. I might upload this as well to the main channel at some point down the road. It's the problem is right now we have so much weather ongoing, so I don't want to have two uploads in the same day with this being an uploaded video. I might do it after the severe weather event. We'll basically see. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.